Good evening and welcome to the 2022 NCAA Division II Men's Basketball Selection Show. I'm Will Haskett. The quality of play in Evansville was so good a season ago, we decided to run it back for another year. And 64 teams are now about to find out if and how their journey begins in pursuit of a national championship. We have a full bracket again this year with a return to 8-team regionals made up in the entire bracket of 23 automatic qualifiers and 41 at-large selections. Those regionals tip off this coming Saturday with the Elite Eight again at the Ford Center in Evansville, Indiana. That tips off on March the 22nd, and we'll have a champion just 4 days after that. Back to help me get through this bracket and prepare us for the action coming up this week is Wayne Cavati of NCAA.com. We've already done the women tonight, Wayne. It's now time for the men to take center stage. And again, a 64-team bracket allows a few more teams to sort of add to the complexity of this with more at-large selections and probably even a more topsy-turvy bracket in our future.
Yeah, you know, this is where you see the difference between myself, a D2 beat writer, and the selection committee, right? I'm sure the selection committee enters conference championship weekend this year, hoping everything goes as planned. So there's an easier roadmap to the 64-team bracket. And I'm sitting here with the popcorn and the smile on my face every time the 8th seed knocks off the 1 seed, right? It's already been crazy. We're already marching this tournament, if you would. 5 teams, unexpected teams, won their conference championship and completely flipped the script on what the bracket's going to look like here coming up.
Yeah, a lot of teams lost an opportunity to play in this tournament because of teams that played their way into this tournament. So let's get right to the selections. We'll bring Wayne in for his thoughts after each of the 8 regions are unveiled. And we start in the Atlantic, where the top seed and the hosting duties belonging to Indiana of Pennsylvania. Twice national runner-ups, IUP returning to the tournament with great expectations to make another deep run. The top defense in the conference this year held opponents to under 40% shooting this season, one of the better numbers in the country. And on offense, Armani Foster is the workhorse of this group. He plays almost every minute of every game en route to a 19.5, 5, and 7 stat line this season. He will take the court against 8-seeded Fayetteville State, 65-62, the final in last weekend's CIAA championship game. That gets the Broncos back to the tournament for the first time since 1993. 4-seed belonging to Mercyhurst, Nicholas Lang runs one of the most disciplined offenses in the country, set to battle 5th-seeded Millersville, first time back to the tournament since 2008. Wouldn't be a tournament without the 2-seed West Liberty, the high-flying Hilltoppers, back again with the nation's top-scoring offense. Never surprised to see this program scoring over 100 per game, but the 2014 national runner-ups haven't made it to the semifinals since 2016. So will there be enough stops in this postseason to make a deep tournament run? They're third in the country entering the weekend in steals and turnovers forced per game. The pressure D will need to come up big in this tournament in 2022. They start against 7-seeded West Virginia State. Quarterfinal loss in the Mountain East put the Yellow Jackets at risk, but they breathe a sigh of relief and grab the final at-large spot here in the Atlantic. 3-seed belonging to Cal U. You have to go back to 2008 to find the last trip to the tourney for this program, and a good year to showcase the talents of Philip Alston, who led the conference in double-doubles. He was top 3 in that category in the country. And he will rebound and score against 6-seeded Fairmont State, the 2017 national runner-ups, back again sporting the best field goal defense this season in the MEC. Always a collision course, it feels like, Wayne, in the Atlantic, with the potential of a couple of top sort of perennial teams, but there's a bit more depth here, it feels like, in 2022.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. You have these 3 tournament heavyweights, right? West Liberty, Indiana, and Mercyhurst, and they're very talented teams. But you mentioned a bunch of the names. There's also a lot of star power here, and that's going to drive this part of the bracket. The Armani Fosters, players like that. And one of the big things I think for West Liberty is I really think if you look at them, Indiana and West Liberty are 1A and 1B in this part of the bracket, but. The big key for West Liberty is Will Yoakum looks healthy. He missed almost the whole season. He got eased back into the lineup in early February. And then in the tournament here, in the MEC tournament, he looked like himself again. It's a huge free agent addition type of thing for West Liberty that now they have their big 3 back and they're gelling right at the right time. And that's just going to make them so much more dangerous right now. Yeah,
we'll see if that scoring can carry them back to Evansville, where they certainly are no strangers. As we now go to the Central region, the host of this one is Augustana, the Northern Sun's top defense this year. They were upset actually in the conference semifinals, but that was just a blip in what was a tremendous season that sees the Vikings return to the tournament for the first time since 2017. That was 1 year after the program's national championship, and this year they've been led by big man Tyler Remersma. He's a big reason why this team has been near the top of most every ranking, leading the conference in both scoring and rebounding. He's a walking double-double, 16 of those this season while averaging 18 and 11 on the year. He will start the tournament run against 8-seeded Southwestern Oklahoma. They were the 7 seed in the GAC tournament, running the table to earn the automatic qualifier and earn only the second tournament berth in school history. 4th seed belonging to Upper Iowa, just the 3rd NCAA D2 tournament trip for the Peacocks, who last made it in 2017. 5 losses on the schedule this season, but they all came against opponents they either beat earlier in the year or avenged later in the season. That's a team capable, of course, of winning every single night, which bodes well in seeking the school's first tournament win. They lead it off with Central Oklahoma, earning the 5 seed, 13th appearance, but the first in 11 years for the Broncos. Minnesota Duluth, your 2 seed in the Central. A run to the NSIC championship game helps position the Bulldogs for a longer run, perhaps in the main event. They were the top offense in the Northern Sun this year, shot at better than 51% from the floor this season. And the 7 seed is Washburn. A nervous wait now ends perhaps for the final at-large in the Central. The 2001 national runner-ups are in 2022. All right, it is loaded because here come the reigning champions. Northwest Missouri State, a 3 seed, and you can never sleep on the reigning champions who've won it all 3 of the last 4 NCAA tournaments. The Bearcats may not be overwhelming favorites this year, but they just won the MIAA title, and they got 35 points from Trevor Hudgens in the final. He was the most outstanding player, of course, in the tournament back in 2019. He was an all-tournament performer a year ago, so while you still have superstars on the roster, he may be the most dangerous player still in the Division II ranks. It's a dangerous number 3 seed here for Northwest Missouri State, looking for yet another title. And they begin against 6-seeded MSU Moorhead. What a run to the title for the Dragons in the Northern Sun. They shot 57% from the floor, got 5 players in double figures to fight their way back to the NCAA tournament for a second straight season. Wayne, throw all 8 names in a bag, pick one out. That might be the team that's going to Evansville.
It's really stacked. And the conference tournaments really threw things for a huge loop here, right? MSU Moorhead coming out of the NSIC, and you had teams Minnesota Duluth, Augustana, and Upper Iowa. All 3 of them were top 10 teams at one point this season. Some of them sometimes at the same time, right? You're talking about 3 great teams, and MSU Moorhead comes out of there. So you knew those 3 teams had to be in there, and so did Moorhead. Neither of the 2 top seeds in the Great American Conference made the championship game, right? Opening the door for Southwestern, like you said. And then meanwhile, you flip it over to the MIAA, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds were the teams in the semifinals. So of course we have to talk about the Bearcats, right? A 5-loss season seems like the sky is falling in Maryville, right? But as we always seem to see, the March Bearcats are a different team than the regular season of Bearcats, and we're seeing that now. Trevor Hudgens completely turned it on today when they needed to, because Washburn they have a lot of momentum. They're playing their best basketball this season right now, and we know in the past those 2 in the postseason they have their history that Washburn has stood up to them, and they won the MIAA last year. But I've seen this story too many times before, that the Bearcats aren't the number 1 seed, that they're maybe the underdog, and until someone beats them, it's still Bearcat country in the Central region.
Yeah, it almost feels like a mini championship, whoever wins this region, and then you have to go and play perhaps 3 more games to prove it on the biggest stage. All right, we slide now to the East region. Top overall seed and the host of this region will be Bentley, a satisfying end to the season. A team that was bested so many times this year by Franklin Pierce, too many times for their liking, but they get the win in the most important game of the season to date. That was a 68-62 win over their NE10 rivals in the championship game earlier today. It included 23 points from Jordan Mello Klein and a defensive effort that held their opponent below 30% shooting in that championship contest. And that will get them a date with the 8 seed. That's Felician. The CACC champions made an unexpected run to the title to return for the first time since 2010. Dominican, your 4 seed, 5-time tournament participants, to face 5th seeded Pace. Semifinal loss in the NE10 semifinals, in the tournament I should say, snapped an 8-game winning streak this year for Pace. So you have a team that was going into that conference tournament riding high. Then they get bested in the semifinals, and you know it already went down to the wire between Franklin Pierce and Bentley, but Pace a very worthy 5 seed here in the East region and could be a dangerous out, especially if they make it all the way through. All right, we mentioned that NET final, the 2 seed belonging to Franklin Pierce. Isaiah Moore scoring 20 in that loss earlier today to Bentley, but took 28 shots in that loss. He'll no doubt be looking for a little bit of revenge and some more efficiency should they meet up again coming up in this regional final. He will start against 7-seeded St. Thomas Aquinas, the East Coast Conference champions, earning the program's 7th berth in the NCAA tournament. The 3 seed belonging to St. Anselm, the 24th tournament berth for one of the most consistent programs in all of Division II. They're led by Chris Paul, who averages nearly 20 per game this year. And they will face 6-seeded New Haven, the last at-large here in the East. They feature the top blocker in the country, Major Majak, averaging over 3.1 blocks per game in the middle. Wayne, it'd be too simple to say we're en route to another NE10 rematch with Franklin Pierce and Bentley, but that was a fun one earlier today.
It sure was, and you look at a team like Bentley, and the Falcons, they didn't get a lot of national attention this year, but they just stayed the course. They were very steady. They led the NE10 in scoring offense, rebounding, assists, and efficiency. The one thing they couldn't figure out during the regular season was Franklin Pierce, and as you mentioned today, we saw that they did, and it was a great game, and now we know that they could beat everyone that was in their way. I think St. Thomas Aquinas is a very, very sneaky 7 seed. They have a lot of tournament experience. They're almost a team that's tournament ready on opening day. That's how much experience they have. And that's what this program does. And they are entering the tournament having lost just once since the calendar flipped to 2022, and that was against their rival Damon. So this is a team with all the momentum, and at a 7 seed, that's dangerous.
No doubt. All right, we're wrapping up the left side of the bracket. One more region before we are halfway home, and that would be the Midwest, where the top overall seed is Walsh. Note there will not be games on Sunday in this region. 3rd appearance officially for Walsh, but a long wait for many of the upperclassmen who last made the field in 2020 only to have the sport put on pause because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That includes leading scorer Darryl Straughter. He helped guide this team to its first appearance back in 2019 and now looks to lead the program to its first tournament win in program history. The sharpshooter led the GMAC this year in 3-pointers made. He will open up against Davenport, the 8 seed, and March is already crazy thanks to this team's run to the GLIAC title, hanging 100 on Northern Michigan for the program's first ever title and tournament berth. Truman State, your 4 seed, unfinished business for the Bulldogs perhaps in this tournament. They lost a thriller in the national quarterfinals last year. Cade McKnight scored 34 in that game. He returns along with a lot of familiar faces on this roster and out of the 4 seed line, hoping to make another run back to Evansville and the national quarterfinals. If they are to make that run, it's going to start against 5th seeded Missouri St. Louis, winners of the GLVC, earning a first trip back in 2020 after 32 years, but now they actually get to tip off a game after that long wait to return to the NCAA tournament. 2 seed belonging to Ferris State, the 2018 national champions, had the GLIAC's top scoring offense all season, but defense let the Bulldogs down of late. They lost 3 of 4, including in the quarterfinals of the GLIAC championship, giving up 92 per game in those last 2 losses. But there's been a little bit of time, and a lot of motivation to get this team ready and sharp coming up for its NCAA tournament start. And that will be against 7-seeded Findlay, hanging on to a top at-large spot after a semifinal loss to Walsh in the GMAC tournament. 2 to go in this region. Hillsdale is your 3 seed. Patrick Cartier, who powers this team with one of the most efficient offensive games in the country, averaging nearly 22 per game while shooting above 65% from the floor. That's top 10 in the country. He'll try to be slowed down by 6-seeded Cedarville, returned last year after a 6-year hiatus and now earns back-to-back berths for the first time in school history. And Wayne, when we wrap up this side of the bracket, you look at the Midwest right now, and again, another one of those stories about how craziness in the conference tournaments really impacted the names you see on this screen.
Absolutely, right? Neither Northern Michigan nor Davenport were in the final regional rankings, but they were in the GLVC championship game today, right? Unranked UIndy knocked Truman State out of the GLVC tournament and faced UMSL team that was ranked 9th in last week's regional ranking, who won their way into the bracket, as we could see. It was utter chaos, and for a spectator, that's what we love, right? That's what we like to see. But because of that chaos, Walsh was really the only team that did what they were supposed to do, right, as that top seed. And I think that makes them the team to beat here. They finished 7-0 to close out the season, and 5 of those 7 wins were against regionally ranked opponents. That being said, Hillsdale and Truman are oozing with tournament experience. Like you said, Truman might have some, a chip on their shoulder from last year, and each of them have a really standout superstar player. So this part of the region will be interesting to see play out.
Every region certainly interesting in its own right. We have unveiled half of them. There's still 4 regions to go. 32 teams still awaiting their name and their slot. We will unveil those right after this.
There's an energy swelling out beyond the limits of your expectations. A universe where fandom reigns supreme. Once you're in it, it changes you. Instead of one, you're one of many. A blissful sea of chaos. Go beyond your limits and enter the NCAA universe. Get your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
Welcome back to the Division II Men's Basketball Selection Show. We've unveiled half of the bracket. We slide over to the right-hand side now, and the South region, where the top overall seed belongs to arguably the top team in the country. Nova Southeastern has not lost this year. An incredible welcome back to the tournament season for the Sharks under legendary head coach Jim Crutchfield. He's guided the program to the best record in all of the country. The Sharks became the first team to ever go perfect through the Sunshine State Conference in the regular season. Obviously, we know this team can score, with Crutchfield's former team at West Liberty, the only team scoring more or winning by as much as them this year. Nick Smith, the engine of the offense, leads the nation in assists and assist-to-turnover ratio. Just the 3rd tournament appearance for the program, all in this new era, and they are certainly hungry for more. They open against 8-seeded Savannah State. An upset over Benedict in the SIAC Championship sends the Tigers to the tournament for the first time. It was the first conference crown in 41 years for a team that picked the perfect time to win 4 in a row. Union, your 4 seed, returning for the first time since 2016. Tyree Boykin led the Gulf South in scoring this year. He scored at over 19 per game. Sometimes it takes just one scorer in the postseason to get things done. Perhaps Union has that scorer in Boykin to lead this team to an NCAA tournament run. They will face off against 5th-seeded Miles, seeking the program's first tournament win here in 2022. The 2nd seed belonging to Berry, which might be playing its best basketball of the season right now. Obviously, it's in a little bit of the shadows of what's going on down there in the Sunshine State, but they earn a trip back to the tournament for the first time since 2018. There have been some really quality wins down the stretch for this team. A collision course 1 versus 2 in this bracket would be must-see coming up in the regional finals, but there's a lot of hurdles in front, including a tournament-tested team in 7-seeded Alabama Huntsville, which missed the tournament just twice since 2010 and has made the Elite Eight twice before. They keep hope alive after winning the Gulf South tournament, coming out as the 4th seed. Embry-Riddle, your 3 seed here. 2 years ago, the celebration was short-lived for the Eagles. They made their first ever tournament only to have the pandemic wipe out the games. This year, bolstered by the nearly 200 three-pointers made by Elijah Jenkins and Romeo Crouch, the Eagles are back and ready to play. This time, we'll actually tip it up. 6-seeded West Alabama will be the opponent in the opening round. Tigers lost in the semifinals of the Gulf South Conference tournament to UAH, but had won 9 of 10 prior to that to snag an at-large berth. So Wayne, you look at that. Savannah State, Alabama, Huntsville punched their way in. Probably cost a couple of teams in the process maybe a spot in this bracket, but still headlined by Nova Southeastern and Berry.
Yeah, I think the Chargers, the Alabama Huntsville, was a forgotten team this season. Earlier this year, heading into the season, you said that they're a tournament-tested team. They're a proven March team, and early in the season they were in those national rankings, and they did lose some pieces, but they were still a pretty solid team. They have great coaching, and they have great scoring depth, and they showed what they could do when they were hot, and now they're a really dangerous 7th seed. But like you said, the story here is Nova Southeastern, right? Embry-Riddle is great. You mentioned their guard duo that just can shoot the lights out. Barry is very good. And we saw it today. They were tied until late in that Sunshine State Conference Championship game. But Nova Southeastern handled both of them this season, right? And didn't have any problems beating them this year. And you have 3 Player of the Year candidates. You mentioned Nick Smith, who leads the country in just about every stat outside of scoring. And then you have Sekou Silla, who's a double-double machine. And RJ Sunahara, who's when that game was tied today at 72, he just took over as a defensive beast, and they have so many different ways to beat you, and it's a fun team to watch right now.
Yeah, we'll see if there's another matchup on the horizon in this one, and can anybody stop the undefeated juggernaut there in that region. We move to the southeast now, just 3 to go. Augusta is our host here and the top overall seed. 14th tournament berth for a program with a couple of deep runs back in 2008 and 2009. This year's squad didn't lose a single game in February en route to the Peach Belt regular season title. Tyshon Crawford was a big force in that, averaging 17, 8, and 2 blocks this season. Also was named the co-player of the year in the conference. He will be a force in the middle to handle for Belmont Abbey, the 8 seed, first time in 60 years with 3 straight tournament berths. It took beating the top 2 seeds in the Conference Carolinas tournament to get here again for Belmont Abbey. UNC Pembroke, the 4 seed, the victim to Belmont Abbey in that championship game by 6 points, but no team has been better on the glass this season in the country than this group. And they will rebound against 5th-seeded Flagler, which made the most of its first tournament trip last year. They went all the way to Evansville and would love a return trip. They're quite familiar with making the tournament and making it to the Elite 8. The 2 seed belonging to Queens, quite a run of consistency for this program, earning the 7th straight tournament berth and looking for a 3rd trip to the semifinals. Jamari Smith, the offensive leader this time around, averaging over 17 per game for a Royals team fresh off another run to an SEC tournament title. And Columbus State will be the opening opponent. The 7-seeded Cougars snatch up the final at-large selection in this region to return to the show for the first time since 2018. 3 seed for the powerhouse from Lincoln Memorial. Plenty of Southeast regional titles for this program, built for another run perhaps here in 2022. Best offense in the conference, led in almost every major offensive category, 88 plus per game, nearly 52% shooting, both top 10 marks in the entire country. Chase Rankin runs the offense, top 10 in the nation in assists, and he will face Georgia College, 6th seed here in the Southeast. Back for the first time since 2011, they own multiple wins against teams in this region that have made the tournament this season, Wayne.
Yeah, I looking at this part of the region, part of the bracket, the top 5 seeds, any one of them could take it. As always, you need to start by looking at Queens and Lincoln Memorial very closely. Queens is coached by one of the best in the game in Bart Lundy, and they have a ton of experience in the tournament. They have Kenny Dye to go along with Smith, and he just makes that engine go. Lincoln Memorial, who does have all this tournament experience, had a very new look team, including a new head coach, and they had something to prove this season, and they did that in the regular season with a very strong season, and obviously now they want to do more. And then you obviously Augusta, the number 1 seed, you got to look at them. And the thing I like about the Jaguars is they are a very good shooting team, but they may be better defensively at preventing teams from getting comfortable shooting, right? They are very accurate from downtown, which is dangerous this time of year, but they also have one of the best field goal percentage defenses in D2.
All right, 2 regions to go, Wayne, and we go to the South Central right now, and we've got a basketball juggernaut brewing, not just the women's program, but the men's program. Hosting and getting the top seed is Lubbock Christian. Not to be outdone by the national champions on the women's side, the Chaps, they want to run at a title as well. They surrendered just over 62 points per game. That was best in the Lone Star Conference. They're also top 5 in the country this season in scoring defense. Parker Hicks is the man on both sides of the floor, posting a 19.7 points per game and 9 rebounds per game average this season, the top double-double guy in the Lone Star this year. They lead off against 8-seeded Texas A&M Commerce. The Lions dodged some wild results in this region to hold on to a last at-large spot in the region. 4th seed belongs to Colorado Mesa, awarded with a tournament berth for the 3rd straight year, the longest streak in program history, to battle 5th-seeded Texas A&M Kingsville. The Javelinas' magical run to the Lone Star Conference Championship game earns them the spot in an at-large in this tournament. West Texas A&M, your 2 seed. The Buffs can put up points with the best of them, including that run to the national championship game last season and another Lone Star title this season. They average a conference-leading 81 points per game. May have even better depth to get to that one final win after replacing really a lot of their scoring leaders from a season ago. This year, they have 3 different players that average over 15 per game. They will try and score against 7-seeded Angelo State. No team in the Lone Star attempted or made more free throws this season than this team. 3-seed Black Hills State. Congratulations to the Yellow Jackets, winners of the RMAC Championship for the first time in program history. Joel Scott had 28 and 9 in the championship showdown, narrowly missing his 18th double-double of the season, a conference best for the RMAC's top scorer. And they will get 6-seeded Dallas Baptist in the opening round, 7th tournament appearance for the program. Wayne, when you look at this one, we had some really good battles in the postseason, especially in the Lone Star, with everybody trying to come out there and just battle their way through this region to get into some positioning. And it's kind of just a replay of many of those matchups perhaps down the line here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing you hit on best was, head coach Tom Brown at West Texas A&M. They're basically like taxes. Every time this year, you're going to be seeing them, right? And that team last year was national runners-up, and they were gutted. They lost three of the not just best scorers on their team in Division II, with the three of the best scorers. And here they are, Lone Star Conference champs in the tournament again. And as a number 2 seed, it's just really remarkable to watch what that program does and how he gets the most out of every player. Parker Hicks and Joel Scott, I think it's important to talk about those two players. Parker Hicks on Lubbock Christian, as you mentioned, and Joel Scott on Black Hills State. It's very rare you see a player as dynamic on both sides of the court as they are, that really can turn a game all by themselves. Of course, they need their supporting cast, but those are two players that can make something special happen in this part of the bracket.
Lovingly say we save the best for last because it feels like every tournament unveil comes down to the West region. We appreciate the wait to get to here, and it's probably a good wait for those at Cal State San Marcos, the top seed in the West. Life can't get much better right now for the Cougars, making their tournament debut and now the top seed in the West, fresh off the program's first ever CCAA tournament win. This team sprints into the tournament with 4 wins against ranked opponents and now 2 wins against top 5 squads this season, including a wire-to-wire win, 85-71 over San Bernardino, the cherry on top. Maybe so far. Could they go farther here in 2022? They faced number 8 Alaska Fairbanks. The GNAC champion showed resilience with a depleted roster, had just 7 players, and make a run to a championship to return to the tournament for the first time since 2005. Again, March delivers incredible moments. 4 seed belonging to Point Loma, 5th straight berth for the 2019 national runner-ups. They face 5th seeded Azusa Pacific, first tournament games to be played since 2018 for this team after the 2020 berth was wiped out due to the pandemic. We mentioned Cal State San Bernardino. They will actually be the host of this region, and again, a no Sunday game region. The top scoring and rebounding team this year in their conference will play in its 14th NCAA tournament, led by Brandon Napper, the top scoring player in the conference, scored just over 20 per game. They're coming off that disappointing conference championship game loss, but get the opportunity to play at home and perhaps they win when it matters the most to make it to Evansville and the Elite Eight if they can capture this region. It will start against 7-seeded Cal Poly Pomona. The 2010 national champions are the last at-large selection in this region. 3 seed belonging to Chico State, the Wildcats' trip to this NCAA tournament, a testament to a number of upperclassmen who stayed extra years to get a chance to play in the NCAA postseason. Malik Duffy is already in graduate school and just became the 6th Wildcat to be named a Conference Player of the Year, logging the most minutes per game of any player in the conference. He was joined by 2 other first-teamers who also put off their careers outside of basketball to stay and play another year, Isaiah Brooks and Kevin Warren. And they will get 6-seeded Academy of Art. Congratulations to the Urban Knights, winners of the Pac West Championship and heading to the tournament for the first time to round out our bracket. Wayne, first your thoughts here on the West.
Well, the CCAA was awesome from start to finish, and I think you see that in the seedings of this bracket, right? Chico State, Cal State San Bernardino, and Cal State San Marcos were all top 10 teams at one point. They all beat each other at one point. It was really hard to separate which team was the best. And then Cal State San Marcos, they showed us that by winning the conference championship this weekend. So I think those 3 are really, they're very strong teams and obviously contenders right off the bat. Now, Academy of Art, this is an impressive run, right? It's a great story. It's their first tournament appearance ever. They had a 20-win season. This team won its bid by defeating Azusa Pacific for the first time in nearly a decade, right? The Urban Knights also, they have 6 players scoring in double figures, and they come at you in many, many ways. I think that's a really interesting story. But I say all that to tell you that I think a team they beat, Point Loma, is really a dangerous team out here, and they may be overlooked. Caden Anderson's one of their best players. He was out till December 11th, and this team looked completely different after that. Yes, they lost to Academy Art, in the conference tournament, but that could just kind of fuel a fire to the momentum that they had going into that game.
We've seen all 8 regions now, Wayne. We've already seen some of these crazy results. So many of the 8 seeds we've already unveiled today, making these miraculous Cinderella-type runs just to get to this tournament. What does it do to your expectations of what you want to see over the next couple of weeks?
I mean, let's bring on the Cinderellas, right? That's what the best part is. We're back to 64 teams. I think you saw that in the conference championships, that a lot of these underdogs, these lower seeds, knew that there was more opportunity for them this year. And all they had to do was string 3 games, sometimes 2 games together to get that chance to play in the big 64 team tournament. And we're seeing a lot of first times or a lot of long times returners in the tournament that are getting that opportunity, and that's what you want to see. But, as we mentioned before, it will come this time of year, comes down to experience. So there's a lot of tournament heavyweights in this tournament once again, with the Northwest Missouri States, the West Texas A&Ms, the Indiana PAs, like West Liberties, just all these teams with a lot of experience. So we'll see how that comes into play later in March.
All we can do is tip them up and see what happens. And I know you'll be right there front and center watching and writing for NCAA.com. Thanks so much, Wayne. Enjoy the games.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to get it started.
All right, fans, there you have it. All 64 teams competing for a shot at a national championship. Those 8 regional sites tip off this coming weekend with the regional finals on Tuesday, March the 15th. The committee will then reseed the winning teams from 8 regions prior to the Division II Elite 8 tipping off from Evansville, Indiana on March the 22nd. You can watch those games from the Ford Center right here on NCAA.com, with the semifinals on March the 24th. Those are on CBS Sports Network. The championship game on March the 26th, as always, on CBS. Make sure you keep up with all the scores and news from the tournament right here on NCAA.com. And for Wayne Cavati, I'm Will Haskett. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Enjoy all of the games, and congratulations and best of luck to all the student athletes competing in this year's championship.